What up, Forward family? It's Forward Fabian. I'm back again with a video for the channel. I'm actually doing a reaction to what we've been educated to believe this did not exist. Americano reaction. So this dropped about 4 months ago on the channel. I'm gonna add this video right here to Interesting Stuff playlist. About a 27-minute video. So get your popcorn ready, sit down, like, comment, subscribe. Hit the notification bell. You can follow me on Instagram, Twitter, Forward Fabian. It's the road to a milli. Peace, love to everybody rocking with the channel. If you're new, turn on notifications so you're notified every time I drop a video. Also, go to the playlist page to get familiar with all the different forms of content I drop on the channel. So, without further ado, so let's hop into the video. Yeah.
There's often a narrative. We all know now that there's often a narrative that we're supposed to follow that's pretty much laid out for us.
I don't follow no narrative, you hear me?
But in the internet age, more and more people are uncovering some uncomfortable truths. But have the powers that be scrambling to cover it up. From the machine tools from outer space to the ancient people who rode around on dinosaurs. Here's the 20 most mysterious things that should not exist. Number 20. The Lanzo stone is embedded with a metal screw bar. A few years ago, back in June of 2002, an unusual stone with a screw-threaded metal bar inside was found. This was a very interesting thing indeed. Mr. Zilin Wang, a collector from Lanzhou, China, found this strange object near the Marzong Mountains, which are on the border of Gansu and Xinjiang provinces. The mysterious stone is pear-shaped and about 8 centimeters long, 6 centimeters wide, and 6 centimeters thick. It weighs 466 grams, and it's very hard. The rock is a type that's never been seen before, which suggests that it may be a meteorite. But geologists and collectors from all over the world were interested in the item, not only because they didn't know what it wasn't made of. They were also shocked by the artifact that it contained. A screw-threaded metal bar. During the discussion, the scientists came up with a lot of crazy ideas about how this stone was formed. One of the ideas is that this stone is a relic from a civilization before ours. It's thought by some people that a civilization like ours existed on Earth before ours. Another theory is that it could be a stony meteorite that brought information from an alien civilization. Since the screw-threaded metal bar is tightly wrapped in the black lithical material, this could be a good explanation. The bar's entrance into the stone and its exposed end don't look like they were made by humans. The truth is, no one knows what this stone and threaded object are, but it could be a clue to something truly amazing. Before we go on, like this video, smash that subscribe button, and click the notification bell right now, or this centipede will crawl on your face when you're sleeping. Time for the rare topic. Here's an image that's been spreading across some parts of the internet like wildfire. But you might be asking why this is the first time you ever saw it. Well, we've been educated to believe that this didn't exist. The authorities are desperately trying to cover this up, and we can only show a blurred image of this scientist who's holding a portal device that can transport you into space. This is amazing technology, but the problem is, this guy's now missing. Was he arrested and thrown in jail? Or did he just portal the heck out of here to go to party on Neptune? As always, comment down below with the hashtag #RareTopic and let us know your opinion in relation to what we just showed on screen. Let's move on to the next one. Number 19. Akambaro figures. Legend has it that on a warm summer day in 1944, Waldemar Jolsrud was walking through the hills near the edge of Acambaro, a small village in the central Mexican state of Guanajuato. He almost tripped over a half-buried figurine while walking through the hills. From 500 BCE to 200 CE, the area was an important center for ceremonies and trade for the ancient Chupquaro culture. As a result, pre-Columbian artifacts are often found by accident. But what Jolsrud, a German hardware store owner and amateur archaeologist, found wasn't a piece of broken, colorful pottery with a geometric pattern on it. Instead, it was a figure made of buff clay riding what could only be called a slightly weird dinosaur. His strange first find led Julsrud to make a makeshift digging site with the help of a family of local farmers. Over 33,000 objects were then found, and each one was crazier than the last. Prehistoric creatures, idols, tools, humanoid figures with Egyptian, African, or Indian features, alien lookalikes, complex architectural compositions, dragons, and monsters. This was like nothing found before, and of course, seeing so many depictions of humans riding dinosaurs raised a lot of questions. How old were these things? Or whether maybe some giant lizards survived into a more recent history than we thought. Number 18. Shinzui. Shinzui, also called Lady Dai, is a mummified woman from China's Han Dynasty, which ran from 206 BC to 220 AD. Even though she's almost 2,000.
So there was mummifying people in the China Dynasty as well? Thought that was an Egyptian thing. I didn't know. It's weird. But their whole mummification process is completely different.
Years old, she still has her own hair, feels soft to the touch, and has ligaments that bend like those of a living person.
Leave her alone,
Some
man.
people say she's the best preserved human mummy ever. In 1970,
before Jobber, it was late nights in the office, sending quotes, sending emails.
71 construction workers in Changsha found the huge tomb of Shinzui by accident. It was near an air raid shelter. Nearly 1,000 valuable things were found in her funnel-shaped tomb. There were 162 carved wooden figures of her slaves, hundreds of pieces of lacquerware, and cosmetics and toiletries. Even dinner was served to Shinzui in the next world. Academics were truly surprised by Shinzui's amazing condition. She could easily become the next health guru like Gwyneth Paltrow, only specializing in people. She's in better shape than a lot of people who are still alive. Her skin in particular is not just soft, but also moist and elastic, like that of a living person. Her eyelashes, eyebrows, and all of her natural hair, including the hair on her head, and even inside of her nose, survived. She died in 163 BC, but when scientists did an autopsy on her bones, they found that her 2,000-year-old body was in the same shape as that of someone who had just died. Number 17. The Main Penny. No one has ever doubted that the Melgren coin is a real Norse penny made in Scandinavia in the Middle Ages. But 60 years after Melgren found the coin, archaeologists and coin experts are still trying to figure out how it got to Maine, USA. The idea that the Vikings went to the Americas before Columbus comes from Icelandic sagas that talk about trips from Greenland to a land with grass and grapes that was far to the west. All but a few fans, like Scandinavians who moved to America in the 1800s, thought that these were just stories for hundreds of years. They were fiercely proud, so they used these stories to defend their right to live in their new country, especially when they were treated badly or laughed at by Anglo-Saxon immigrants who had come before them. They thought that the old stories were true and wanted proof. All kinds of things that don't belong in Maine have been found in this one place, as if it were a pre-Columbian World's Fair for the northeastern coast of North America, from Lake Erie to Newfoundland. And this coin is the strongest evidence yet. The Vikings were here long before Columbus. Number 16.
I believe that. Who had that backwards,
the Bent
bro?
Pyramid.
Tripping.
The Pyramid of Sneferu was one of the first pyramids to be built. It was also one of the most interesting pyramids in ancient Egypt. It was built in the Egyptian royal necropolis at Dashur. It's different than any other pyramid in Egypt. The southern shining one was what the ancient Egyptians called it. It was called that because it was made of a shiny, polished Tura limestone. Around 2600 BC, the Bent Pyramid was built by Pharaoh Sneferu of Egypt's Old Kingdom. The fourth dynasty was started by Sneferu, and his stepson Khufu.
This like kind of the dimensions look a bit different, because as we know, pyramids are very, symmetrical, you know what I'm saying, like a triangle-ish. This one's kind of bent. But I'm curious to know, like, are there still the entrances to these pyramids? Like, could you walk into a pyramid? Are they closed off? Probably wouldn't be the safest thing to walk into a pyramid. But I'm tripping. Can you go inside pyramids? Yep, I guess the interiors of all three pyramids of Giza are open to visitors, but each requires a purchase of a separate ticket. Although tourists were once able to freely climb the pyramids, now it's illegal. Okay, so just to bring some pictures over, this is what the insides of pyramids look like. I don't know why I never looked into this. The inside look like this. The Great Pyramid of Giza, Egypt, jag filmar. The Pyramida. The gallery. That thing look real tight, though. Giza Pyramida.
Who was in charge of building the Great Pyramid at Giza in later years. The pyramid was built in the desert on the west bank of the Nile, 40 kilometers south of Cairo. Up until this point, pyramids had been built on fertile land, but this was different. And instead of being built in a perfect pyramid shape, the top part of the walls curve inward, making it look kinda bent. The bent pyramid is one of only 5 Old Kingdom pyramids that still look like they did when they were built 4,500 years ago. Even the limestone shell of the pyramid is still there, which would make it shine in the desert sun. The lower part of the pyramid has walls that rise at a 45-degree angle. The slope suddenly flattens out to 43 degrees, about 49 meters above the base. This is what gives the pyramid its weird shape. And while it may seem like a kind of Costco pyramid compared to the others, this is still an awesome piece of ancient engineering. Number 15. The 500-million-year-old Dorchester Pot should not exist. In spite of what most people think, archaeologists often find old things that seem to show a level of technology that, according to mainstream science, shouldn't have existed at the time that they were carbon dated to. These are called OO parts, short for out-of-place artifacts, and most of the time they're studied briefly and then forgotten. Science may seem like it's omniscient, but sometimes on the route to getting to the right answer, we get some things wrong, and it can sometimes take a little bit of time to correct it. Now we get to the most interesting part, which is the Dorchester Pot. This pot is a beautiful metal container that's 4.5 inches tall and 6.5 inches wide. It has a geometric pattern that's embossed with bright silver. To make something this beautiful would take a lot of skill and care. But the main reason that the Dorchester Pot is so mysterious and gets so much attention isn't just because it's a beautiful piece of art. The argument is that the pot was stuck in the pudding stone inside a rock or boulder. A few American scientific articles published strong evidence to back up these claims at the time. Obviously, if this is true, then we need to understand how this happened. The rock that the Dorchester Pot came from is at least 500 million years old, according to scientists. Does that mean that the pot itself is also at least 500 million years old? And if it is...
That's what it means, G?
A CRM shouldn't weigh your budget down.
Then who was making Victorian-style silverware at a time before even plants and grasses evolved? Number 14. Hairy frog. The hairy frogfish looks very strange to say the least. It's a frog and a fish, so it's a little bit of both.
Never heard of it.
But it's mostly a fish. But it's even mostly a hairy blob that lives in coral seas, especially where reefs are common in warmer oceans. But the hairy frogfish doesn't just look strange. It also wants to act strange. First, its hair, which are actually spines, help it blend in with the surroundings. This is helped by the fact that, like a chameleon, the frogfish can change color to match the surroundings.
Look like coral.
They can't swim either, which you might think is a bad thing for a fish. It doesn't look like that's stopping them, though. They don't like to waste energy following things around, so one extra long spine hangs over their lips and acts as bait. When prey swims by to look at the bait, then the frogfish can really move. Even the newest slow-motion cameras have trouble catching the frogfish's attack because it happens so quickly. It only takes 1/6000th of a second to bite, making it one of the fastest eaters in the whole world. Number 13. Mystery of the Salzburg Cube. The now famous Salzburg Cube, also called the Wolf's Egg Iron, is a very strange ancient artifact that was found in 1885 in Wolf's Egg am Hausruck, Austria, inside lignite that had been mined there. A worker at Braun Iron Factory in Schondorf, Austria, found the object when he was breaking up a block of lignite that was 20 million years old. Later in 1886, mining engineer Adolf Gerlt told the Natural History Society of Bonn about the strange, unexplainable object. He said that it was made of iron, had a thin layer of rust on it, and had a specific gravity of 7.75. The thing weighs 785 grams and is 67 millimeters long, 67 millimeters wide and 47 millimeters thick. 4 of its sides are roughly flat, while the other 2, which are on opposite sides, are perfectly rounded. About halfway up the height of the object, a fairly deep groove is cut
Look like
all
that
the way
moon rock,
around.
yeah?
The cube was clearly made by a machine, but what kind of machines were around 20 million years ago? The original cube is kept in the Hey Mathis Museum in Vöcklerbruck, Austria, and no one's allowed to see it.
Austria.
Number 12. UFO artifact found next to dinosaur bones. We often assume that we're the first intelligent species to inhabit this planet, but that may turn out to be false, and not just because humans aren't always all that intelligent. Here's some evidence of an advanced civilization which may have preceded our own by thousands of years. A piece of aluminum that looks like it was made by hand is being held up as proof that aliens came to Earth 250,000 years ago. The mysterious piece of metal was found in Romania in 1973, and it wasn't made public at the time. Since then, tests have shown that the object is made of 12 different metals and is 90% aluminum. Metallic aluminum wasn't really made by humans until about 200 years ago, so the discovery of a big piece that's said to be up to 250,000 years old is being held up as a big deal. And it's even stranger that it was found mixed in with a bunch of dinosaur bones. Is this an ancient dinosaur hunting weapon of some kind? Experts say the metal piece has hollows that makes it look like it was made as a part of a more complicated machine. Now people are arguing a lot about whether or not the object is part of a UFO and proof that an alien civilization.
You know what's crazy to me? Like, as much as like archaeologists know about dinosaurs, they really don't know that much about like that prehistoric era. You know? Aside from fossils. Like, you don't really hear too much info come out about dinosaurs and that type of era. Except Jurassic Park.
Visited Earth in the past. Number 11. The Antikythera mechanism. How about an ancient computer that was lost in the ocean by some even smarter than smart ancient Greeks? Well, that's what the Antikythera mechanism is. It's got its name from the small port where the sponge fishermen found it in 1900. Around 200 BC, a shipwreck here left a lot of treasure behind. But the most interesting thing was a strange clockwork mechanism. It's thought that the mechanism was used to help sailors figure out where the moon was, where the planets were, and when eclipses happened. 3D scanning has shown that it has an amazing level of mechanical complexity. Unlike anything else from the ancient world or even before the European Renaissance, when clockwork technology improved. It remains one of the biggest mysteries of ancient history, and it may explain why Greek culture was so strong at the time. If they had this kind of navigation tech, that was a major advantage. But even so, I guess they couldn't navigate away from those rocks and avoid the catastrophe. Number 10. The Conti Mouse. You may have seen a mouse with a human ear on its back in the early days of the internet, when this kind of image would just land in your inbox with zero context. You might have thought that the mouse was genetically modified, deformed, or the results of scientists playing God. Well, all of those are true, in a way. Harvard surgeons Joseph and Charles Viconti, along with MIT engineer Bob Langer, tried out ways to make human body parts in the lab. As a part of a study to learn more about how they could help grow body parts, they put the shape of a human ear in the back of a mouse. In 1997, they wrote about what they found. The strange Conti mouse was shown to the whole world after BBC aired a show about tissue engineering. In the late 1990s, the picture led to a lot of protests against genetic engineering, even though no genetic manipulation was actually done in this particular experiment. And what about the mouse? What was its fate? Joseph Viconti made a joke that the mouse had its ear removed and then lived out a normal, happy life. But lab workers usually kill the mice they work with, and the original paper they wrote about how the mice were after sacrifice. Sacrifice means they were killed by lab workers.
I became a sperm donor
Okay,
with
they were being
Cryos,
brutally
and I made
honest. They killed them things.
$780 each month.
Is that how you were able?
Workers, sadly, so don't expect this one to be nibbling on your cheese at night. Number 9. Light bulb found in Egyptian tomb.
Bro, I just covered this.
The temple of the Egyptian
on the
goddess
African video.
Hathor at Dendra is one of the best preserved ancient Egyptian temples. On one of its walls, there may be a drawing of a light bulb. What the hell?
A baseball
This makes
bat?
the Dendra light bulb a very strange, possible example of modern technology from the past. The so-called Dendra light is shown in 3 stone reliefs in the temple. At first glance, it looks like a crook-shaped bulb with a lotus socket at one end, a cable running below it, and a snake-shaped cord filament inside. In the most well-known picture of the so-called Dendra light, a priest holds up the lamp, and a few more figures can be seen below it. It's important to remember that even though researchers have dug up thousands of ancient sites in Egypt, they haven't found any clear electrical objects, let alone a light bulb. There's no proof that the ancient Egyptians used electricity to light their stuff, but maybe some of their gods did. Number 8. El Mirador, the lost Mayan city. From 300 BC to 158, up to 80,000 people lived in El Mirador. The 72-meter-tall Danta
like a
pyramid,
pyramid,
which was the Mayans' tallest structure and world's largest pyramid, was in charge of this place. The fact that the ruins can only be reached on foot, by horse, or by helicopter, the closest road is 60 kilometers away, makes them even more interesting. Even better, the site is in the large Maya Biosphere Reserve, which is part of the Mirador Basin, full of ruins. This place has been one of the most varied ecosystems in the world. It's home to jaguars, pumas, giant anteaters, scarlet macaws, and hundreds of plants and trees that can only be found here. In 1885, a man named Claudio Urrutia made a map of part of the Mirador Basin. There he found some old buildings, but nobody really paid much attention to El Mirador until 1962, when Ian Graham stayed there for a while and made the first map of the area. This large group of pre-classic Mayan cities in Mesoamerica are in danger because the equipment used to build logging roads, which makes it easier for people to move in the area, is destroying, looting, and cutting down trees. Mirador Basin is a place in the far north of Guatemala, in the region of Petén. It's known for its many archaeological sites, many which are the biggest and oldest in the Maya world. Number 7. The mystery of the flying machines at Seti. People say that the hieroglyphs at the Temple of Seti show a helicopter, a submarine, and a zeppelin or plane. Some people who are interested in the occult and ufological things think that some of the hieroglyphs carved on an ark on the site show modern technology, kind of like the dendrolite that we saw earlier. Most of these theories are based on fraudulent archaeology.
I'm not surprised
and
about
the pictures
none of that, man. I said this in the last video, man. These guys' IQ was smarter than ours today. Everybody think they're so bright today because we live in 2023. Got PhDs and scientists. No, bro, there was way more. Simple life leads to greater life. The simplistics of stuff back in the day made them geniuses, bro. Come on.
That are often used as evidence have been
dumb,
altered
you
in some
slow.
way, at least according to skeptics. Well, archaeologists really found these hieroglyphs in Seti's tomb when a piece of plaster fell off a wall and showed the pictures for the first time in thousands of years. So they're not so easy to dismiss. But what if that thing on the left that looks like a bug is actually a huge alien? Are they the ones who are going to come and enslave us? I, for one, welcome our new
predators.
alien overlords. Number 6. The Gosford Glyphs. If you were asked where you would most likely find a secret stash of Egyptian rock carvings, you'd probably say in North Africa, right?
Hieroglyphics.
Well, how about Australia? Brisbane
You know what
Water
I'm saying?
National Park, near Gosford on the New South Wales Central Coast, would be one of the last places that most people would expect to find such ancient things. But that's where more than 300 symbols of Egyptian gods, chickens, bees, and other weird critters are carved into a rock face. They're a natural crypt made of 2 vertical sandstone walls that are 3.5 meters high. Where did they come from? One popular theory is that they were made by Egyptians who sailed to Australia about 5,000 years ago, got shipwrecked, and then carved their story into the rocks here after being lost at sea. Does this claim have any truth to it? Of course not. A spokesperson for the NSW National Parks and Wildlife Service said, "We learned about the engravings in the early 1980s, which is when most of them were thought to have been made. Even though there's a lot of evidence that the so-called hieroglyphs are a complete hoax, there's still a lot of interest in them, and many curious people visit the site each year. No matter where the sandstone carvings came from, it's hard to believe you're only a 30-minute walk from the suburbs when you have to climb over moss-covered boulders and squeeze like Indiana Jones through dark, damp cracks. Especially when those dark, damp cracks lead you to an entrance to a natural crypt filled with hieroglyphs. It's a real adventure in the city." Number 5. Bizarre 3-fingered mummified hand found in a tunnel in the Peruvian desert. Next up, a mummified hand with just 3 fingers and 8-inch fingers were found in a tunnel in the desert of Peru. At first glance, it might look like some artist just made it up out of their imagination. But a doctor in Cusco, Peru, looked at it and found that it's made of real skin and bone, with 6 bones in each finger. The strange-looking hand was supposedly given to Peruvian researcher Brain Fosterer, who runs hidden Inca tours, along with a small mummified elongated skull and a
So what are y'all saying? We had giants back then? Is that what y'all trying to tell me?
With Wix, you can edit your meta tags page by
small mummified body. The person from the area who has the items told
Does that not look like a giant hand to y'all? They trying to tell us that we had the Prometheus guys from back in the day. You seen Prometheus or no?
Forsterer that they were found in a tunnel in the Peruvian desert in January of 2016. The tunnel was closed off by a big stone door, and inside were 2 clay-covered sarcophagi that held body parts. He said he didn't want to sell the mummified body parts. He just wanted to know who they were or what they might have belonged to. An examination showed that the mummified hand is made of skin and bone, which means it's not a fake, unless it was somehow made using real bones, flesh, and skin, which could be even creepier. Number 4. Kensington Runestone. The Kensington Runestone is a large piece of gray wax stone that has runes carved on it. The Kensington Runestone is said to have been found in 1898 in the town of Kensington, which is in the middle of Minnesota.
What's a rune?
Olaf Oman, a Swedish immigrant, said that he found it by accident in a field under a tree in Salem, a mostly rural township in Douglas County. And here I thought for sure Olaf must have been a friend of Rose's from St. Olaf. Olaf Oman said that he found the runestone while he was cleaning up a piece of land he had just bought. Before he plowed, he was pulling up trees and stumps. He said the runestone was near the top of a small hill that rose above a wetland. The runestone was supposedly found laying flat, face down, and completely tangled up in the root of a poplar tree. After being translated, the writing on the Kensington Runestone looks like something Scandinavian explorers left behind in the 14th century. It has the year 1362 written on it, which is around 300 years after the end of the Viking War. And now the stone is at the center of a heated debate about whether or not it's real. Some people who don't believe the Kensington Runestone is real point directly at Olaf Oman, saying that the inscription was a hoax that he created. Even so, there is still a strong and vocal group of people who think the Kensington Runestone is real. So what do you think? Number 3. 2,000-year-old sword still in mint condition. The blade of a Chinese sword that was taken out of its sheath for the first time in more than 2,000 years was still perfectly shiny. Archaeologists found the ancient weapon in a tomb in the ruins of Chenyang City in central China. It's thought to be about 2,300 years old. When they took the big blade out of its dirty sheath, they saw that it hadn't rusted and was still sharp, shiny, and almost in perfect shape. The Henan Provincial Institute of Cultural Relics and Archaeology posted pictures of the sword on the Chinese social network Weibo. The artifact is thought to be from China's Warring States period, which lasted from about 475 BC to 221 BC. During this time, the Zhou dynasty area was split into 8 states, and there was often fighting between them. The sword had been buried with its owner in a wooden coffin, and no one at the time surely imagined it would emerge again in perfect condition so many years in the distant future.
Bro, that's not perfect condition. That's good condition. You know what I'm saying?
Number 2.
Clean that thing up.
Viking Warrior women. On the Swedish island of Birka, a Swedish entomologist named Hjalmar Stolp, who later became an archaeologist, found the grave of a Viking warrior in 1871. Around the body were the bones of 2 horses that had been killed as sacrifices. There was also a double-edged sword, a skrammasax, which is a long, thin knife, a bow, a shield, and a spear. Every Viking weapon that was known at the time. It was a surprising find, especially because Viking warrior graves rarely have more than 3 weapons. There was also a full set of Hnefatafel, which is sometimes called Viking chess, and it shows how a war leader thinks about strategy and how much power he has. Weapons, game pieces, and the location of what is now called grave BJ581 all showed that the person buried there was a well-known and respected Viking warrior. No one was really ready for what happened when DNA tests were made in 2017 and a new story started to come out. Even though a famous warrior was in BJ 581, that person wasn't a man. This was a strong warrior woman. Women had some of the best jobs in the Viking world, including being some of the best warriors. This was different from the way that most other people lived at that time. Hell, even this time. These women are so tough that you wouldn't want to mess with them, and this grave is proof of that. Number 1. 99-million-year-old baby snake fossil found in amber. The world's first known snake embryo from 99 million years ago was found recently in Myanmar. It was preserved in amber. What's fascinating is what the fossil can tell us about how snakes have changed over time. Their research showed that the small animal,
y'all remember in the first Jurassic Park where they had that that mosquito that was like in amber, you know what I'm saying? And them scientists are looking at it. That's in the Jurassic Park, the first one. That's what this reminds me of.
5 centimeters long, is a new species called Xiaophis myanmarensis. The fossil skeleton doesn't have a head, but scientists think that it couldn't have been longer than 8 centimeters. But what's really amazing about this find is what the tiny fossil says about the animal that got caught. Ancient snakes from Argentina, Africa, India, and Australia are all related to this one. Snakes are fragile, so they don't preserve well, and the young are even more fragile. This new fossil gives scientists much needed information about the ancient snake's journey from Australia to Myanmar. This journey began more than 180 million years ago, and it took the species far from home. We've not only found the first baby snake, but also the first proof that a fossil snake lived in a forest. Which of these mysteries do you...
Let me know y'all's thoughts on this one, man. That was, we have been educated to believe this didn't exist, but what part of that were we coaxed to believe it didn't exist? I don't know. Yeah, let me know y'all's thoughts on this in the comment section below. Be sure to check out the interesting stuff playlist link provided in the description as well as the comment section. If you have any additional recommendations, go ahead and put them down below, man. Peace, love, prosperity. We'll catch you guys next time. Out.